teenage son, Ryan, into their blended family, and Emma had grown used to the rhythm of shared dinners, quiet conversations, and the gentle presence of someone learning to fit into her world. But that calm shattered the moment the front door slammed open, startling Emma as Ryan stumbled inside, his jacket crooked, his hair messy, and the unmistakable scent of alcohol hitting the air. Panic gripped her chest as she rushed to him. "Ryan? Are you okay?" she asked, her voice tight with worry, and he muttered something incoherent, slumping into a chair with a flushed face and trembling hands. Mark appeared from his study, concern etched into his features. "What happened?" he asked, but Ryan only shook his head, mumbling that he just wanted to forget, his eyes darting away. Emma's heart ached as she stood there, unsure how to bridge the sudden gap between them. She had always wanted to be a supportive stepmother, someone he could trust, but now the fragile sense of family she had worked to build seemed suddenly at risk, like a thin thread about to snap. She wanted to reach out, to comfort him, yet an unfamiliar tension pulled at her, a mix of fear, sadness, and a subtle, confusing stir of emotion she didn't understand. That night, as she sat alone in her room listening to the rain against the windows, Emma felt the weight of the evening press on her chest. The laughter and easy warmth of their home felt distant, almost unreachable, and a quiet storm brewed inside her mind. She realized, with a sinking feeling, that Ryan's struggles were more serious than she had imagined, and that the bond between them, so tender and fragile, would be tested in ways she couldn't yet foresee. Something had shifted, a tension in the air that made her heart race and her thoughts spiral. Tonight, the peace she had known in her new family life had been broken, and deep down, she sensed that nothing would ever be quite the same. The days after Ryan's drunken return were heavy with silence, and Emma felt the weight of every unspoken word pressing against her chest as she watched him retreat into himself, avoiding her eyes and speaking in clipped, distant sentences that made the house feel colder than it had before. Even Mark noticed the tension, but he attributed it to teenage moods, unaware of the deeper storm brewing beneath Ryan's quiet exterior. Emma tried to break through, offering gentle questions, inviting him for walks, or suggesting they bake cookies together, but each attempt was met with a polite shrug or a muttered excuse, leaving her with a growing sense of helplessness and worry. One rainy afternoon, unable to ignore the knot in her stomach, she found Ryan in the garage, sitting on a wooden crate with an old photo album open on his lap, his eyes distant and glistening with unshed tears. Emma hesitated for a moment, then sat beside him, her voice soft and steady as she asked if he missed his mother, and slowly, hesitantly, he nodded, the walls around him beginning to crack just enough for her presence to reach him. She didn't force words, she simply offered her company, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder and letting him know that she was there, that he didn't have to face his feelings alone, that he could trust her with the confusion and pain he carried. Ryan's gaze finally met hers, a flicker of vulnerability surfacing, and she saw the boy behind the anger, the sadness, and the fear, a boy who longed to feel safe, to be understood, to belong. Over the next hours, they talked in whispers, sharing fragments of pain and small confessions, and Emma felt a deep ache in her chest, a mix of sorrow for his struggle and a nurturing warmth she couldn't fully explain, a closeness that was tender, emotional, and unsettling in its intensity. Mark occasionally passed by, unaware of the delicate bond forming between his wife and his son, a connection built on trust, care, and the quiet understanding of someone who truly sees you when the world feels heavy. Each evening that followed, Emma sensed Ryan's gradual openness, the slight relaxation in his posture, the quiet acknowledgement that he could rely on her, and though it brought relief, it also stirred a confusing mix of emotions she hadn't anticipated, a mixture of maternal care and something deeper that made her heart thrum with both concern and a strange longing. She began to understand that family was not just about sharing a house but about navigating emotions, building bridges over silence, and offering love in its many forms, even when hearts were fragile and uncertain. And yet, the closeness that blossomed in these small moments carried an unspoken tension, a whisper of emotional complexity that made her both cautious and deeply aware of how delicate their bond had become. In quiet nights alone, Emma wrestled with her feelings, questioning how much she could invest in Ryan's healing without crossing invisible lines, all the while sensing that the connection forming between them was powerful, transformative, and life-changing, and she feared the day when Mark might notice, when the delicate balance of their household could shift in ways she wasn't ready to confront. The house, once filled with routine and distant civility, was slowly coming alive with emotion, a mixture of sorrow, hope, and the fragile beginnings of trust, and Emma realized that her role in Ryan's life was becoming more profound than she had ever imagined, shaping not only his healing but her own understanding of love, patience, and resilience in the quiet, emotional moments that truly define family. A week later, the storm that had been brewing inside Ryan seemed to spill outward as a heavy rain fell over the town, and Emma, restless and uneasy, found herself wandering into the garden, lost in thought about how fragile their family had become and how much she wanted to help him heal without pushing too hard. She spotted Ryan standing in the pouring rain, drenched and still, staring at the ground as if the world outside mirrored the turmoil inside him. Without thinking, she ran to his side, calling his name, her voice filled with concern, and he barely reacted at first, his body rigid, his eyes shadowed with pain. "Emma. I feel like I'm losing myself," he whispered, his voice trembling and raw, and the sight of him, vulnerable and shaken, made her heart ache. She wrapped her cardigan around him, feeling the weight of his despair and the unexpected closeness that grew between them in that moment, a connection built on trust, empathy, and quiet understanding. They stood together in the rain, talking in hushed tones as he slowly admitted fears he had held inside for months, fears of failing, of being misunderstood, of never feeling truly safe, and she listened, offering words of comfort, assurance, and unconditional support, never judging, never rushing, simply being present. Each word they shared seemed to form an invisible bridge, connecting their hearts in a way that felt tender and profound, stirring feelings in Emma she hadn't anticipated, a mix of protective care, deep empathy, and a subtle, emotional longing she struggled to define. The rain soaked them both, but neither moved away. Instead, it became a backdrop to the delicate trust blooming between them, a silent affirmation that she was someone he could rely on, that he could reveal the parts of himself that were broken without fear of rejection. As Ryan spoke, his voice breaking with honesty and shame, Emma felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of sorrow for his pain and an overwhelming desire to help him find stability, confidence, and happiness again. She realized that her presence mattered more than she had imagined, that the bond forming in these quiet, emotional moments was stronger than simple guidance. It was a lifeline for both of them, reshaping the way they saw each other and the meaning of family. When the storm finally eased, they returned to the house, soaked but connected, each step quiet yet significant, and Emma understood that this moment in the rain had changed something fundamental. It had shifted the balance of trust and intimacy between them, opening the door to healing, emotional depth, and a profound understanding that sometimes, love is expressed not in grand gestures but in shared vulnerability, quiet words, and simply being there when someone feels lost. That night, as they warmed themselves with tea and soft conversation, Emma felt a mix of relief, fear, and a gentle, growing attachment that was tender, emotional, and undeniably real, knowing that the path ahead would be delicate but that the trust they had begun to build could guide them through the challenges to come. And yet, in the back of her mind, a quiet worry lingered. How would Mark perceive the closeness she had developed with Ryan? And could the family navigate this evolving emotional landscape without breaking the fragile harmony they had fought to maintain? In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere in Emma's home began to shift as Ryan slowly opened up, sharing more of his fears, frustrations, and hopes, and Emma found herself walking beside him through his struggles with patience, understanding, and a steady calm that seemed to anchor him when life felt overwhelming, while Mark, busy with work and daily routines, occasionally observed the growing closeness, without fully realizing the depth of their connection. Meals once tense became quieter but warmer. Small conversations in the kitchen evolved into genuine exchanges of trust, and Emma noticed how Ryan's laughter, when it returned, sounded freer, more sincere, a sign that the walls he had built around himself were finally softening under her care. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Emma and Ryan sat on the porch, side by side, talking about simple things, the books they liked, the music that moved them, memories of his childhood. But beneath the surface, a profound emotional bond had taken root, blending comfort, mutual respect, and a tender affection that was gentle yet powerful, a connection that reminded Emma how love can take many forms, beyond romance or obligation, shaping hearts quietly and enduringly. Ryan, with a hesitant smile, admitted he had never felt truly safe with anyone since losing his mother, and Emma responded with warmth and reassurance, telling him he deserved care, understanding, and support, and that their family, though unconventional, could provide it. Over time, this bond became the foundation of their daily lives, and even Mark began to notice the change, not in a way that caused suspicion, but as an appreciation for how Emma's influence was helping Ryan grow calmer, happier, and more confident, a reminder that family is built through emotional presence, empathy, and consistent care. Emma realized that the journey had not only healed Ryan but also taught her about resilience, patience, and the quiet strength of love, the kind that doesn't demand or rush, but quietly nurtures and sustains. The once tense household now carried an unspoken understanding, a harmony built from small acts of kindness, conversations in the rain, shared silences, and mutual respect, and Emma felt a profound sense of fulfillment in witnessing Ryan thrive, knowing she had played a part in guiding him through the storm he had faced alone for too long. Yet, she also understood that life would continue to test them, that challenges would return, and that maintaining trust and connection would require vigilance, empathy, and open hearts, but she was ready to face whatever came next with courage, patience, and a deep, enduring love that was both maternal and profoundly emotional, shaping a family bound not only by circumstance but by the quiet, unwavering support and understanding that can turn heartbreak into healing, uncertainty into confidence, and fragile beginnings into lasting bonds that withstand the storms of life, proving that love, in its purest, most nurturing form, has the power to transform hearts and homes, creating a safe haven where trust, care, and emotional intimacy flourish. And as Emma watched Ryan laughing softly that evening, she realized that her world, once threatened by fear and uncertainty, had shifted completely into a place of hope, connection, and gentle joy, a new chapter for both of them that promised growth, healing, and the quiet beauty of hearts learning to love, trust, and belong together.